Yes, so my name is Jussi Makela, and it's my absolute pleasure and privilege to be moderating and hosting this discussion that we have this afternoon regarding the blockchain opportunities for connectivity for the service providers. I think every generation throughout history have always thought that the time they live is that it's very much at the peak technology, and technologies evolve and they will be revolutionizing the ways that we live and so forth. And I think that the same applies here, and we are very much in terms of the international carrier and the wider ICT service provider industry, and very much in this cusp of a transformational change which is facilitated by technology. And what it facilitates, obviously, is the automation of a lot of the business processes that all of us undertake with each other. And I think the transformational power is not just that we have a software that helps doing things, but it also has a transformational in the sense that it will drive how carriers, how ICT service providers actually interact with each other, how that's going to potentially define what the future value sets will be, and how traffic and connectivity is managed throughout. So we'll have a special privilege for me is to host with a very distinguished panel of founders, leaders, innovators from a very significant contributors in terms of software currently to the industry, but then also those who are entering the industry with new views and new technology solutions. So it's my pleasure to introduce the panel, which we have Michael Kearns from AMARTUS, David Rutter from R3, James Kirby from CSG, Eran Haggiag from Clear Technologies, and Limena from TOMIA. So welcome to the panel. What I would firstly ask, if you could just do a very quick sort of 30-second elevator pitch, just to explain what is that your company is engaged with, what is the value that you bring, what is the business that you engage with. Yep.
Hello everybody, delighted to participate in the panel. Michael Kearns is my name. I am the founder of AMARTUS. AMARTUS, for those people who don't know our company, we were founded in 2003. Our core area of expertise is in business and network automation and orchestration. We've been very much proponents of the open programmable network, both from the business and the networking layer. And we're really delighted to be part of the initiatives at the Metro Ethernet Forum, at the TEAM Forum, and also more recently focusing on blockchain within the GLF and CBN initiatives. Thank you.
I'm David Rutter, the founder and CEO of R3, an enterprise blockchain company. Founded it in the US, moved to London about 3 years ago for a small company. We're actually very global. What we do is provide the foundational layers to empower solutions in various industries. We started in financial services and insurance and trade, and now we're making a big effort in telecoms through Thomas Spencer, who hopefully a number of you people know.
Thank you. James.
So my name's James Kirby. I'm the president of EMEA for CSG. I've been with the company for 20 years or so now, and during that time we've been providing wholesale, predominantly settlement services to around 200 telcos globally, and really pleased that we can be part of this initiative to put some investment into the blockchain initiative around our solutions for our customers.
My name is Eran Haggiag, co-founder and executive chairman of Clear. We are a startup founded 2 years ago, focused on blockchain and automation technologies. We've been focused on the telecommunication sector since we started, and we've been working with the GLF and with the leading carriers and operators to build multiple proof of concepts in international voice and roaming, bandwidth on demand, now moving into MVP and hopefully towards production.
Thank you, Eran. My name is Limena. I'm the CEO of TOMIA. TOMIA is a company owned by Vista Equity Partner, which is a group that invests on software across multiple industries, and we are the platform around an investment thesis around software and the benefit that software brings in the telecommunications. We are a composition of 3 companies that came together under the new brand TOMIA. One is called Telerix. Telerix has been active for 20 years into the interconnect, rating, routing, and settlement business. Starhome is a leader into the roaming business, and MAC is the clearing business. So we have looking at the opportunity of the data and the data monetization and this new platform processes optimization that blockchain bring to the discussion.
Thank you, everyone. As I mentioned earlier, what's interesting with the panel here is that we don't have any carrier representatives, so it's only those who actually develop on the sort of technology. So it would be very interesting to get your perspectives on some of the business issues and opportunities that the carrier industry has. So I'd like to start maybe with Michael with the question that from your perspective, what is it that you see are the use cases that will bring the most benefit from automation, so cross-organizational automation? What are the use cases that bring the most benefits to the current carrier business model?
Yeah, but what we see is that we're starting from the order of sort of thousands of orders that carriers have. Traditional model is that they go through some manual processes to deliver connectivity service. So I'm talking specifically about connectivity services per the headline. What we see is the major opportunity then is to first automate around this in the north-south direction. So that means automating on net for within your service. It's a fundamental building block to being able to expand your offering and open it up to your partners in an automated way that can be driven programmatically. There's also big benefits in this. So obviously, if you automate on your on-net services and you can respond faster, the benefit is that you can increase the conversion rate from the quoting through to the service in a delivery cycle, which is really very important. You can also reduce errors, and you can free up some of your people to look at other automation and other new service introductions. But very fundamentally after that, I suppose it's opening that same capability east-west. So if you're a wholesale provider providing transit services, you need to be able to open your services up on net, but also combine them with off-net partner services and drive them in the exact same way. So you want a similar process that allows you to extend your service offering into your partner networks and similarly to be able to buy services from partners and to buy and sell from your partners. Beyond that, you're talking about bandwidth on demand as a basic initial offering from a connectivity perspective, being able to provide some flexibility in the service. And this is a step towards looking at supporting the cloud, dynamic, flexibility that you get with cloud services, supporting multi-cloud strategies of the enterprise, which is a major adoption increase in the multi-cloud, and then to be able to extend not just to just provide connectivity, to offer cloud services as an extension to this. So related to the connectivity, where you can combine the connectivity and cloud, where you can add value-added services, and further leapfrog beyond the enterprise, beyond providing this, is into the world of providing network slicing for hyperconnectivity. So this is where you go from the thousands of orders you'd have today, right up to having tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and even millions of connections that you need to dynamically create in a very short space of time. So this is the direction. So to go back to the very foundational step is to make sure you have very automation in place that will enable you to expose your services in a very dynamic and flexible way, and this will increase your revenue opportunities.
Any further add in terms of like potential use cases? What would be the specifically driving and relevant for the carrier industry?
Okay.
Marco.
I think that here is two elements that we are working together as a group of players in the industry. One is the benefit of a platform, okay, which is a long-term vision on which you find a number of economics that around connectivity and bilateral agreement to a network economy, okay? So that there is an element. The other win is how we can get together with the input of the carrier to narrow focus, a strategic decision around the platform on what is you can prove yourself short term, okay? And so capacity is demand. It's a great conversation about that. I think all the dispute management and the settlement is another great conversation about that. And I think this goes beyond the GLF, okay? And so within the GLF is a great platform for getting that narrow focus and prove ourselves and make progress. But for when we come to TOMIA, that goes beyond the interconnectivity and go to the roaming and go to the clearing. So IoT, for example, as the area, and the roaming itself is an area where benefits are really clearly identified. And I think that the secret over here, and how to think about, in our case, the move on the focus, to find those economics that are proven, and over the time build that on a way that is scalable, so the platform has a strategic long-term value, I think.
And so I fully agree with this list of use cases. I think another interesting framework to look at is the kind of value creation over time. So we start with things that are around efficiencies, as you mentioned, and we move to things like anti-fraud, where we need a kind of more global adoption of the technology to get. And then we get to these new use cases around the capacity on demand, around IoT on a kind of full scale, around edge computing, that we need these new business models. We need the ability to get very fast changes into contracts. We want to have this 24/7 on-demand automatic settlement, and these are the kind of use cases that we look at. And then lastly, once we implement all these use cases within the telecommunication industry, offer these solutions to other adjacent industries and customers of the telecom as kind of a blockchain as a service type of offering is another big opportunity for this industry.
Yeah,
Sorry,
no, I was
James,
going to say, I mean, I fully agree, and I think one of the interesting things, and we've just had our user conference the last few days, and a big thing coming out of that is fraud and the revenue leakage that comes from that. So investing in this technology is not going to be necessarily cheap, for operators. So they need a way of being able to monetize that, whether that's through new services they can offer, but also the prevention of fraud, to recover lost revenues, and reconciliation of disputes much faster, as the ecosystem should be able to allow data to be shared a lot easier.
Yeah, so I think the panel's done a good job laying out a number of specific use cases. From our perspective at R3, our enterprise blockchain product, Corda, is designed to help industries solve problems at the industry level, specifically non-proprietary, non-differentiating middle and back office services, which we're very well suited for. So I think that as the industry, it sounds like we still need some proof points. So picking something like, voice settlement or something to prove the power of the technology is great. But we're looking beyond that. We announced last week with Vodafone, we're doing some stuff with IoT payments. We're doing a lot of IoT devices, and we look at this thing very differently. It's a biometrically attached device, if you will, that can be used for a wide range of services. And we're having discussions across, finance and health records, and of course, to provide those services to the telephone. So the telecommunications industry is extremely important. We need this industry to get behind the technology, but you have to start somewhere. So we want to start with a couple proof points like settlement.
Yeah, maybe to follow up on that. You're coming from, so R3, coming from a financial background, and clear to some extent as well, you're focused on the industry, but you're basically new entrants in a way. What are the sort of characteristics that you find for a DLT application specifically that's relevant? Why is telecommunications industry interesting to you?
It's interesting for a couple of reasons, and without upsetting anyone in the audience, there's some archaic processes that still exist here, very manual processes, because the industry is massive and it's been around for a very, very long time. But there's also parallels when we talk about capital markets. There's multilateral settlement infrastructure that's built for complex derivatives. So it seems intuitively to me not underestimating the challenge of the number of large organizations and the geographic disbursement, that we ought to be able to take some of those learnings into this industry to solve some of the problems. So there's some amazing parallels from my perspective.
Okay. And Eran, why is the focus from Clear specifically on telecommunications at this stage of your development?
So I think telecommunication is interesting because of a few reasons. First of all, the telecommunication industry is in a very interesting phase now. It's transforming from legacy services like voice to kind of more digital services and enterprise services, and kind of adjacent to what OTTs are currently working with. And there is a huge opportunity to the telecommunication community to have kind of the next revolution coming from productized connectivity, IoT, 5G, the network slicing, the edge computing, to be able to be a provider to enterprises and to startups and technology companies directly, and not necessarily through the cloud providers and the big OTTs. To do that, it needs to work together towards a common platform that will be able to offer this API-based on-demand services. And to do that, you need a platform that can work industry-wide, and this is exactly the type of platform we are building now. So I think this is it's an enormous opportunity for the telecommunication industry to utilize such a technology to do such a thing. For us as a company, it's interesting because telecommunication is fully digitized, so it's very easy to kind of implement this type of technology on that, as well as it's a high throughput, many transactions, very kind of complex IT and security department. So for us, making it work in this industry will allow us to easily go to other industries with a ready solution.
Yeah. So we mentioned a lot of times, like obviously the benefits of a platform and the future use cases that evolve from it, but then there's also investment, there's existing OSS, BSS systems, there's existing roadmaps of transformation that are probably planned for years and so on. But from your view, from a delivery of the technology, what do you see is the main challenges for this kind of a transformation? I don't know, starting with Marco maybe from your side. What are the main challenges that the carriers have specifically?
So look at, I think that the carriers are dealing with evolving what they're doing. Okay, definitely we come TOMIA from the belief that there are no other investment asset class better than software to yield returns into revitalizing processes, assets, and the knowledge of the people. And so when you think about the digital transformation, a lot of telecom operators are the core of providing that ubiquity connectivity, but they're not fully taking advantage of the opportunity to monetize. And so how to evolve your current application that into something that is linear, is something that really provide new capability to a different type of economics. I discussed before about the IoT, for example, when you start looking at those devices, what is happening at the edge of the network, where the unit of monetization is so different from different devices. So how you rethink about your processes, that the economics of those still value with that new type of services, new type of situation. So the ability to evolve what you have is really, really important. The other element to do that in a way that doesn't create silos, or doesn't create dependencies. This is an industry that thrives by working together. And the other thing, there's the last thing, the third one is that whatever you do in this industry, you have to do at massive scale. You cannot do something that once you have exercised and prove that doesn't have an element to scale. And so these are things, the element. I think this group of people over here has done that many times. I think that there's a key element on how to evolve where you're coming from, how to think about working, avoid silos, and how to think whatever you do to be able to scale at the massive level that the telco need to support.
Sure. Any further thoughts, Michael? You very much focus on the implementation
the transformation side, yeah. So I mean, these transformations are multi-year transformations, so it's a trial and error for many of the companies that are trying to learn the new technologies and techniques that they need to adapt. And again, the world is moving on in those multiple years and the timeframes that they're working on. So, I think we can expect that it's both a multi-year project for them to get their in-house systems in order, so that they can at least expose this capability to the partner network and join the partner network. It's also a process and organizational re-engineering which has to take place in parallel. So you have to train your people, They have to become familiar with how the new processes will work, you know. Yeah. But the good news is that for majority of providers, they're already, this is already a work in progress. So, you know, I think the kind of work that we would do in the blockchain will really be a major enhancement to this activity. Where we are today with many of the providers is we see big emphasis on APIs, you know, for APIs both for the internal side to make everything kind of flexible, streamlining their north-south software stacks, but also APIs to go east-west. And I think the blockchain naturally complements this and opens up the ecosystem, which is the most important aspect of it, you know.
I just want to say one thing. I mean, one of our goals is to absolutely kill the API. Okay, so if you look at big banks and different organizations, look what HSBC spends in maintaining APIs from disparate systems that don't talk to each other. You know, part of our focus from the start has been interoperability amongst core apps. And I know people like to talk about interoperability amongst blockchains, which is a second order. I think that, you know, creating that foundational layer to be able to, you know, facilitate all these tech providers that provide services to telco companies are very important. And then the other thing is that one of the big things, you have both your business resistance and then you have the reality of going into production. And there's only, you know, 2 enterprise blockchain systems ourselves with Corda and IBM's Fabric that has done that in any sort of scale, and it's really hard. And integrating into the existing systems is very hard, which is why we made some of our tech choices around Java. 12 million developers and SQL databases considered boring by the Ethereum and some other communities, but it's practical as far as backward compatibility and integration to existing systems.
Maybe that sort of leads to a question, the sort of like a blockchain, so maybe demystifies, like, you know, why did you, because blockchain or DLT technologies can be quite costly in a way in terms of computing power and all that. Why do we need to kill the API? Where do we actually need the blockchain?
No one in this room will ever use proof of work, which is the expensive public blockchain. You know, let's go run a math problem and burn half the, you know, Amazon forest powering it. They're going to use permission ledgers and lighter weight technologies, but there's still a lot of expense in integration, and also getting a big industry like this to migrate onto any new platform is, as Michael rightly said, a multi-year challenge.
Yeah.
I think it also goes beyond the technology as well, right? Because, you know, we're all technologists and we can fix the technology, but it also needs a mindset change in the way the business is thinking about this. You know, one of the advantages might be faster reconciliation, but that might not actually be an advantage for every operator. You know, some operators might like to not reconcile particularly quickly. So, you know, we need to be thinking beyond, you know, the initial ideas of this into the wider ecosystem that it will offer. And I think, you know, the technology can be fixed. You know, that can be a fairly simple thing. But getting businesses to buy into it and getting, you know, the leaders in operators to make some pretty big decisions on if this is, you know, the direction to go is also what, you know, when we're talking with our customers, is the discussion is about that as well, not just the technology.
Regarding technology and what DLT blockchain facilitates is a lot of the decentralization, a lot of the functions, and maybe there's a question to Marco and James. How do you see as it basically you have an existing business, you are existingly very, you know, well established within the community. There's some business models that one might argue would be challenged by decentralization. What's your perspective on, you know, on the sort of like with your existing business in terms of trying to now drive proactively this decentralization?
It's probably an easier question for me than it is for there, but I mean, I think for us, you know, actually decentralizing, you know, is a good thing. You know, and we're investing in this because we think it's the right thing to do to enable operators to connect more directly to each other rather than having to go through a centralized, you know, clearinghouse type environment. So for us, it's a really exciting time and a positive time as well.
Yeah, look, we are strongly believer that it's a non-zero-sum game. You know, that we are built on this industry. We are, you know, thriving when the industry thrives. And as in any industry, you think about the banking system and everything, you look forward how to build value. And this is a networking economy, okay? So when you think about zero-sum game, that's where our application thrive, where the more data give business insights, and the efficiency that the technology bring, is just the benefit on which we thrive as well. We have a little bit less of a commitment to blockchain as a technology. We think that that is the means to an end is not the end for us, and so we partner with people that has done that, that leverage and understand that part of the stack. Is a complex stack. But for others, there is the beliefs that first of all we continue to evolve. We live in the software world, and a big part of what we do go back in research and development. But this is a zero-sum game when it comes to the industry.
You talk with regards to the sort of industry collaboration. There's there's the Communication Blockchain Network Initiative, which is something that was incubated and launched from the GLF. It was something we announced back in late June at ITW, and I know over the past summer all of you have spent huge amounts of investment in terms of working with the carrier, with the CBN community, and with their members in terms of defining what the reference architecture is, defining like how can you actually solve these problems around ensuring that you have a multi-carrier, multi-vendor, modular, abstract framework that allows everyone to work together. So maybe just the kind of question to run through all of you is that why do you think it's important to invest in the CBN? Why are you doing what you're doing and dedicating all the resources for that? Maybe Michael first.
Yeah, I think it's fundamentally that the industry can't move forward without the ecosystem. And the blockchain technology introduces something very, very key to enable that ecosystem to work seamlessly, frictionlessly. I think it's a fundamental thing. However many iterations we take to get there, with this, and it's great to see the commitment of all the parties in respect to the GLF CBN, and we look forward to the success of the initiative.
David?
Well, first off, I applaud the initiative. When we think about blockchain and also transformation technologies, especially when you're trying to do it at the industry level instead of the individual firm level, in order to make smart contracts and other technologies useful and understood by all, you do need a certain set of standards. The problem is you don't want to wait for all the standards either, because standards bodies move extremely, extremely slow. So I suppose the challenge for the industry here is to really get behind this effort and push hard, and we need proof points to rise up to the C-suite folks that ultimately drive all of our behavior, and that will be done by getting some of these projects like what Clear and other guys are working on into the market. The good news for the telco industry is I was having these discussions with the financial guys 3 years ago, so they've been waiting for it all this time. And I think you guys are really starting to pay attention at the right time, because there are applications in production working, proving the point. So porting them over to the telecom sector is a little easier.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, we've seen, industry initiatives come and go over the years. But for us, this is a really great one, because we're actually seeing, many of our customers and operators embrace it, joining us in proof of concepts, and working with all of us on this initiative. So it comes back to really what we need here is the ecosystem, and the level of engagement from the operator community is really good. So it's good to be part of.
I think that the work at the CBN the last few months was, I would say, surprisingly successful. Seeing so many vendors and carriers working together, setting up a reference architecture, multiple MVP definitions, and being able to work such a rapid way and very successful is inspiring and very encouraging. And I think this is something that shows that not only there is an interest, but there is a way for this industry to collaborate in a very efficient way to be able to create this platform that is very needed. I can say that from Clear's perspective, working with the community of the carriers for almost 2 years now, it was great to see new carriers coming in and kind of adding more features and definitions into MVPs, more vendors coming in and kind of helping us define a better interoperability. So I think this is quite a success.
I would agree with all the colleagues there. There is a tremendous opportunity in the risk that things doesn't happen as fast as they could. I think that from the carrier to the carrier community, there is a group of technology providers that to some degrees can simplify what can appear to be a complexity, or how do you bring initial use cases into what can be scalable into the production environment, into the reliability that this system need for the telco industry. But the telco industry needs that, and in the capacity, in the wholesale, these efficiency are really, really needed. So there is an opportunity over here to build on, frankly, the fact there's a group of players that say, look at, we think about that non-zero-sum game, we're working together, everybody gain. It's a platform for the carriers to come in and finish those use cases and participating with us to make sure that those in reality hit the ground running. And from that, we build that adoption and cut across those risks you talk about, the adoption of some of the innovation. The opportunity for us to gain from that is really, really important. You think about the industry more broadly in the telecom industry, think about mobile application content. There's a lot of things that could have touched and move on. This part, which is really part of the essence of those operations that the telcos be able to massively scale and need to evolve, is for us to take advantage together, working together. So I think that the initiative that the Global Issue Forum put together has been very, very promising.
Okay. David, you mentioned the sort of activities that have taken place in the financial services industry, and so you've seen consortium models and so forth with varying degrees of success, I guess. Is there anything specific from learnings that should be applied by the telecommunications industry participants in the panel?
Yeah, I mean, look, if consortiums are hard. I brought together a large group for R3, and unless you like self-inflicted pain, consortiums are really, really difficult. What they need is they need passionate people to drive them, because you have to move a large group en masse. So it needs an inspirational leader or leaders to continue to remind everyone why they're there, because you are, in effect, herding cats. That being said, on the other side is a very powerful industry-based endorsement, which is going to dramatically increase your probability of success. So it's a tremendous amount of upfront pain, but if you stick with it, it's ultimately worth it, in my opinion.
And any other thoughts in terms of what would be the rest of the panel's advice in terms of for the carrier community to drive, and what are the key considerations for that to become success? Michael, if you want to start from.
I think the carrier community needs to continue to be involved and get more involved in this initiative. I think they're the benefactors of this initiative. I think there's a good foundation there, and we would see the fruits of the labor in these initial use cases, and everybody can. It's done in an open manner. So I think encourage people to join in.
Yeah. James, from your side.
Yeah, I think we've this year has seen a lot of momentum, and I think we need to all continue to pull together to continue that momentum through MVPs into live production. And I think we'll see in 2020 an initial deployments into production, ready hopefully for something going much larger in 2021.
Any further words of advice for the carrier community in driving this further? Advice for the telecommunication in terms of driving this into success?
Yeah, I mean, what we see is that even after kind of top-level management make a decision to move forward with this, it still takes time to get all the other departments to sync and work on that. So I would say kind of once you make a decision, Try to make sure your IT department is aware of that, and different operation departments aware of that, to make this happen fast. And the second thing is go to your partners that you work with the most and get them on board as well, because this is, as you said, it's a network game. So to make it successful, we need to have the momentum going, the ball rolling, and to get fast adoption.
Yeah.
I would agree. I think those use cases I've discussed, some of that has a terrific ROI. I think about some of what has been mentioned, and the fraud and the revenue leakage, and not only the benefit of the efficiency of the process, but kind of just the return and how quickly those return prove success. Technology, I think, should be to a certain point demystified, and it's going to be available for. It's been done in other industries, done with other groups. And so the ability to narrow focus on those and quickly prove that the production environment benefit is something that you can build from, and doing that within a group of people that really have the desire to prove the result very quickly. Okay, I think that 2020 is going to be a great year for that.
Yeah. Now, heading towards the end of it, is there any questions from the panel perhaps you would like to, sorry, from the audience you would like to the panel? I don't know if we have the slide, or we probably don't have it on for this one. Any questions? If not, I'd maybe just to ask the sort of like a final thing, that if you had a magic wand, you could remove one of the obstacle that you see within a wider adoption, whether it is regarding investment individually or the wider adoption, whatever that might be, in order to get to the place where you can actually start to accelerate the adoption of these new services, to actually make them into, put them into the roadmap, what would that, where will you use your magic wand? Who wants to go first?
I would say, let's think long term on this. Don't think about the short-term barriers to it. It's all too easy for us to think about the negatives as to why this isn't a good thing. There's a long-term plan here, and that's what we should be looking at.
I suppose, as I said earlier, standards are hard, so I suppose creating standards, because that'll accelerate adoption. But ultimately, what I want to do is get stuck in it with you all, solve some industry problems that are going to save some costs, and get on to the more exciting side of this, which is providing a load of services through our telephones that can create brand new revenue opportunities for everyone at this conference.
Yeah. Any further?
I think just get into more of a co-create mindset, and working together to build something for the industry at large, so that everybody's can improve their lot. I think if we just think of each individual and what they will get out of it, it's not the appropriate way. So I think we can just have the mindset change to co-create.
Yeah, this will happen. And I don't think that there is a magic wand, but I believe on a group of folks that believe to accelerate and take advantage of this opportunity that will happen no matter what. And so that working group, that mindset, that collaboration that doesn't wait for the complexity but build on the opportunity, that's what we need. And so hopefully that is going to be 2020 is the year for us seeing that happening very well.
Yeah.
I think that just personal observation in the last, I would say, few weeks or a month, we've seen a huge uptick in kind of concrete interest and involvement in many carriers and operators around the different use cases of voice, anti-fraud, roaming. So I think whatever magic wand it was, it's already a stroke. If there is something I would like to do is to automate procurement processes within telcos, but maybe it's another project we can use our technology to do that.
We have a procurement platform for you that you can port to telecommunications. So we'll talk about that afterwards.
There you go. There you go. I think we might have solved most of the problems on the one go. So thank you very much for the panel. Thank you, Michael, David, James, Eran, and Marco. And I wish you a great rest of the conference, and thank you also for the audience. Thank you.